The Jehovah's Witnesses are different than most Christian groups in a lot of interesting ways, but I think the one that is the most bizarre and fascinating is in their idea of an afterlife. See, most Christians believe that good people go to heaven, bad people go to hell. And yet the Jehovah's Witnesses think that only 144,000 people will go to heaven. Very specific and strange number, but I have a separate video on this channel that talks about that 144,000. But everyone else that is a loyal, good person is going to be here on earth for an eternity with perfect health, with perfect bodies, with perfect harmony with other people, and perfect harmony with animals. And they're all going to eat a lot of fruit. It sounds very childlike and bizarre, and that's because it is. But I want to try and do my best to explain all of the problems that the Jehovah's Witness paradise has. So let's do this. The motivation to make this video started with a post that I saw on a JW forum where a bunch of believing Jehovah's Witnesses get together and talk about Jehovah's Witness related problems, issues, and ideas. And there's one that really stuck out to me, and that was baldness and overweight. And someone asked the question, will there be no more baldness in paradise? Is baldness actually considered a disease? And what about obesity? Will that disappear too? Is being overweight seen as an illness? Everyone imagines that in the future, everyone will have a perfectly fit body. However, perfection does not mean that everyone will look the same, because Jehovah loves diversity, whether tall or short, or with different skin tones and features. Now, before I dive right into this and other eccentricities of the Jehovah's Witness paradise, I think it's important to sort of strip things back and look at how a Jehovah's Witness comes into their concept of the paradise, because my working hypothesis at this point, we'll see where my brain takes me to by the end of this video, but my working hypothesis is the Jehovah's Witnesses have a very childlike view of this paradise future, and this has been reinforced and indoctrinated into their heads over and over again. But as they get older, and as they start seeing the world through the eyes of an adult, yet they still have this childlike hope for the future, you get adult real-world problems and issues of thinking about things, but the answers are childlike because that is its very construct from the beginning. So let me explain exactly what that means. If you are born into the Jehovah's Witness world, you are essentially force-fed a constant stream of paradise propaganda. This is a video from their official website, jw.org, in which they have Jehovah's Witness children talking about their future hope of paradise.
In paradise, everyone is happy, they have fun, and it's a very beautiful place.
You can live forever in paradise, so you can become friends with everyone from all over the world and become one big family.
In paradise, there are mountains, forests, rivers, lots of flowers, and you can hear people singing and laughing. It's exciting.
You can't really go near animals and play with them now, but in paradise, they won't hurt you or try to bite you, so you can play with them and have fun. I want to have a race with the cheetahs in the paradise.
In paradise, Satan will be no more, so fun will continue forever. The meek will possess the earth, and they will find exquisite delight in the abundance of peace. Now I can recite the scripture by heart.
Right now, there are a lot of disasters and crimes. But in paradise, there are going to be lots of good and happy things. There will be smiles everywhere.
By thinking about myself in the beautiful paradise, I can be patient during hard times.
It's pretty jarring seeing these little kids talk about their future hope. At least it was for me. It feels very cult-like, or maybe I don't know anything about cults, but especially there at the end, the future paradise will help us get through our problems now. She's 6. A 6-year-old is already being trained to think about any problem that she will have in the future as only having the paradise be the real solution to that. Oh man, there's war. At least we have the paradise. Wow, people don't have enough food to eat. Well, at least there's a paradise. Man, there was a horrible tsunami. Well, at least there's the paradise. They are trained, as you can see from this video, from birth to think about everything as how it will relate to their future hope of being in paradise. Now, one of the most powerful mediums, especially for children, is in their entertainment, their cartoons and the music they listen to. And the Jehovah's Witnesses know this very well, and so they also have music videos and specialized cartoons targeted at kids to help reinforce this idea of this future paradise earth where there's going to be plenty of happy people petting lots of animals.
Will thrive, said the psalmist. This grand future is sure. We can live forever. It's worth all endeavor. God's promise is faithful. His word will come true.
So imagine you have a friend that is a firefighter and they have a kid, and before the kid's even born, they put firefighter wallpaper, they have firefighter toys, firefighter bed sheets, and as they grow up, they watch firefighting cartoons and animations, and they're always, being told, what are you going to be when you grow up? And if he says doctor, you say, no, you are going to be a firefighter. And then someone comes along and sees this whole situation and says, so you must really want your kid to be a firefighter. And the parent turns to the kid and says, well, no, it's not what I want for them. Hey, Timmy, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I want to be a firefighter. It's not really terribly surprising because you have really formed this kid's world around this singular concept that this is what you are going to do. This is what you are going to be. There's not really any other options presented if someone was psychotic enough to do this activity, right? And so it's not a surprise that Jehovah's Witness children hold this idea and concept of the paradise earth as very real to them. This is what they have, their entire world has been shaped around the idea of this future paradise earth. And the whole doctrine itself is very childlike. It appeals to children. It's like a petting zoo, an infinite petting zoo. It's like the coolest thing ever if you're a kid. You don't get sick, you don't get cavities, there's no mean people, everyone's being nice to each other, and you get to pet baby pandas and koalas and leopards. How cool does that sound to a kid? Now, kids generally aren't going to think about the details of something. If you ask a kid, we'll just go back to that since we just mentioned it. What are you going to do when you grow up? And they say, oh, I want to be a doctor, a firefighter, a scientist, or an astronaut. They're not really thinking about, well, if I want to be an astronaut, I have to learn physics, and I have to learn engineering, and I have to go to this school, and I have to get student loans, and it's going to take this many years, and I have to do this training, and I got to get this internship. They just want to go into space, right? Now, a similar thing with Jehovah's Witnesses when you ask them, oh, well, what's your hope for the future? Oh, well, it's this paradise earth. But when you try and get to the details of like how that world is actually going to function, the answers get a little bit murkier. So I want to go through a lot of the problems that paradise has. I guess we'll just have a little splash screen here and we'll call it Problems with Paradise.
Living peacefully in a
question that inspired this video, what will people look like in this paradise, is pretty fascinating. When people are perfect, you start looking at like, well, what does perfect mean? Because that can change over time, even in our own history. You know, you look back, there was a time when food scarcity was very real. And so someone that was larger, maybe had a big belly, a sign that they were very well fed, that could have been more attractive than it is in 2026, just because the world is different in a different place. You know, in one context, that can be seen as security, and in another context, that could be seen as maybe lacking motivation or something like that. And individuals throughout their life, they can change significantly as well. Look at the thumbnail to this video. I've undergone many transformations myself. So this is a concept that, you know, we're all kind of familiar with, but how does this work in the official JW paradise? Well, unfortunately, with a lot of these questions, the answer is we don't know, or magic. That's what a lot of it comes down to. But the scripture that they use in order to answer a lot of these questions is found in, I got to think about this now, Psalm 145:16, maybe 6. It's in Psalm 145, but I think I can still quote it off the top of my head. God is going to satisfy the desire of every living thing. He's going to satisfy the desire. So whatever desires you have, whatever you want in your life, whatever you need, God is going to be able to satisfy that, which I think is hilarious. I envision some type of like sexy salon where people will be able to just go into the salon and completely change the way they look because they have a new desire. What if someone wakes up and they have a desire to look like Pam Bondi and get spanked with a ping pong paddle? That's a desire they have. I suppose God is going to fulfill that desire, right? Or is there certain desires that are wrong, certain desires that are okay? We don't really know what exactly the rules are going to be like, but I think this one in particular with baldness and body, is it going to be a situation where people can go into the sexy salon and say, well, you know, I think I want to look like Idris Elba today. And then the next day they can be like, you know what? I think I'm really feeling more of a Tom Holland vibe. Are you going to get like a white guy and then a tall black guy? Like, okay, I'm going to be Elijah Wood, and I just want to be like a little tiny white guy. And then I want to look like Ronnie Coleman the next day. It's really weird and bizarre to think how this will actually function. Or are people going to look exactly how they do now, and it's just our perception of it that's going to change? Well, this is a conversation I had as a Jehovah's Witness, and people that were considered less attractive weren't very happy about that situation. They were quick to speak up and be like, hey, I don't just want people's perception, because my perception of myself is that I'm not very attractive. I would like a little bit of an upgrade here. So the actual nuts and bolts of this thing just completely fall apart, and it comes down to magic.
No. But if you can do it now, just imagine how it'll feel when the new world comes.
Yes, the big draw of paradise for most people, because it was, incepted when they were children, is being at peace with animals. Animals aren't going to attack you. They're not going to bite you. They will cause you no harm. So they'll just be running around free and easy like a big giant park. But instead of squirrels and ducks, it's going to be lions and pandas. And this is cool, sure. But it breaks down when you start thinking about like, well, how does this actually work? For instance, what is a snake going to eat? There's a scripture that they always point to in Isaiah that talks about the wolf and the lamb riding around together, SpongeBob and Plankton finally getting along, and snakes that aren't going to bite people. Well, what is a snake going to eat? I mean, by my observation, snakes have evolved to do a very specific tasks. Their bodies are going to need some sort of like DLC update where they get teeth that can eat grass. I don't really, I guess they'll just have to eat grass so you can throw a mango down and snakes are just going to be eating mangoes. I suppose. What about a whale? Will they eat krill? Will krill be considered like animals still, or are they viewed as plants? No one really has the answers to these questions. But the funniest aspect of this for me is people, we're animals as well. So ostensibly, they are going to be vegetarian or vegans as well. And this doesn't really sit too well with a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses. That forum that I mentioned earlier where Jehovah's Witnesses talk about their problems, I did make a separate video about this topic specifically as well. But someone had posted the question, are we all going to be vegetarian? And people were none too happy. The idea of not having their bacon and steaks and cheeseburgers really pissed people off. So much so that they hypothesized that there would be trees that grew meat on them. What state that meat was in, who really could tell you? But I guess Burger King, maybe before they get blasted by Armageddon, they're going to have a new product where you get some seeds, you plant it in the ground, and bingo, bango, bongo, you got a Big Mac. It grows right there on the trees. Maybe we'll get a side of fries with extra salt eventually. Who knows what the paradise has to offer? But again, there's not really any explanation to how this will work. All of these things seemingly are pretty important. They would, dictate how they're going to live their lives for eternity. You would like to at least know on some level how this thing is going to work, or if any of it makes sense in the real world, or if it's even physically possible. And yet, the answer is always the same. It will just be magic.
It's never an easy ride when you're going against the tide.
Another scripture that they use to describe their future paradise is Revelation chapter 11. Can't remember the verse, sorry. But in there, Revelation 11, I think it's actually 18. It says that God is going to put an end to those ruining the earth. And their extrapolation from this is that there's not going to be any pollution. There's not going to be any greenhouse gases. There's not going to be toxic waste being produced anymore. All of that will be in the past. So when you look at how they present and show pictures of this future paradise, people aren't living in log cabins. They have very industrialized looking houses with, manufactured glass and electricity and tablets and things like that. How are you going to explain how do you get these products? Where do you get the battery? Are you mining for these materials? How is it going to actually work if you're no longer able to ruin the planet or cause any type of pollution? My mind says that you just have to stop doing anything that would pollute the planet. Does that mean that people are going to be living in eternity without anything, any of the wonders of the Industrial Revolution? Just all of it goes away and it's back to horses and donkeys and building stuff out of sticks and mud. I guess it'll just be magic. Maybe you could just go, it's like Extreme Makeover Home Edition or something like that, where you just like go into like a Home Depot, but it's just like an empty room with like some angels in it. And you tell the angel, oh, okay, well, I would really like my house to look like that. And then they like wave their little finger or something around, or maybe you have to trade something. So you like bring them a turtle and then they'll be like, okay, well, thank you for the turtle. I've upgraded your house with all the specifications. And they just snap their fingers and it happens. Again, the Jehovah's Witnesses don't really have any answers to how their paradise will work other than magic.
Then the weekend comes and we're taking turns sharing good news door to door. But
The Jehovah's Witnesses also believe that there will be no pain, but does that mean there will be no injuries? suppose someone is, I don't know, walking on a road and they trip and fall. Will they just never trip and fall? Will it be physically impossible even if they threw themselves off of a cliff? Will they just be suspended right there in midair? Or is it like they can instantly be metamorphosed into a different material, like the DC Comics character Metamorphosis? Like, oh man, I fell off this mountain. Boom, you just turn yourself into diamond and you're good to go. No scratches, no bumps, no harm, no foul. Is it that type of situation? What if you're chopping an onion and you nick your finger? Is it just like going to instantly heal like your Wolverine? Or I don't really know. How is any of this stuff going to actually work? Oh, wait, I forgot. Magic.
Any pain?
No! No pain, no pain, no pain.
Come on, people, give the Lord a mighty hand.
Now, the last one I want to bring up here can't really be solved with magic, so I find it a bit to be maybe the most interesting one. And that is what you do with marriage. A lot of people that have been Jehovah's Witnesses have experienced losing their partner. I'll just speak from experience of my own family. My stepdad, he was married before he met my mom when they were younger, and she died in a car accident. They were both Jehovah's Witnesses. So you would think that she's going to be resurrected and brought back into this paradise. And yet he married my mom. So is it a polygamy situation? Or is it like the new wife? Is it you just go back to your first wife? Do you get a pick? Is it like a choice? Is it like a every other weekend custody type arrangement? How is that going to work? And I suppose since we're already down this rabbit hole, what about a case where someone has been abused by another Jehovah's Witness, sexually or otherwise? What if they both end up living on the same street together? Are you just going to forget that they ever did that to you? Is it going to be like a Men in Black neuralizer situation where you just forget that that ever happened to you? Does that make it right? Does that feel just? It's like, oh, okay, well, I know you did this horrible thing to me, but I guess I just forgot about it now. Does God still remember it? What about the angels? Do they still have memory of that happening? And they just are saying, oh, well, you know, they're getting together, they're getting on just fine now, so everything's all hunky-dory. How are those type of interpersonal relationship situations going to actually play out in this promised paradise? Because the solution to those functionally cannot be magic. Well, I guess it could be magic. Maybe it's like they just get their own new little planet, or well, you go your way, I'll go my way, and when the colonization starts, then we never have to see each other again, and so it's a lot less awkward. Maybe people will be resurrected. If you've been married and that person has died, or whatever the case is, maybe you get resurrected to a different Earth, Earth 3, Earth 497. I don't really know. These are questions you would have to ask a Jehovah's Witness, but at the end of this, I find it very refreshing to actually look back at how absurd all of these paradise claims are, because this was my life. And it's embarrassing to say that I was an adult living what others might see as a fairly normal life. And yet in the back of my mind, I was waiting for the day when fireballs would rain down from heaven, killing everyone. Everyone on planet Earth that wasn't a Jehovah's Witness would be dead, and finally it would be my time to shine. I didn't have any answers. I didn't think about how any of this would work. You'd have conversations with your friends and your pals, and you'd sort of hypothesize different sort of solutions, but at the end of the day, we would always come to the same solution. We don't really know. It's just by magic. And when that is your hope for the future, when that is your foundation, as that little girl said at that video I played at the beginning, all of the bad things that we go through now, we can think about the paradise. And yet when you think about the paradise, it doesn't make any sense. So that thing that you're using to ground yourself, to get yourself through problems, didn't make any sense. It wasn't very real, no matter how much they told you to view, just imagine yourself in paradise, view yourself in paradise. It still was an absurd Candyland sort of like fantasy world that they created with all of these logistical and physics problems till the cows come home. And that wasn't a real grounding force. It didn't actually provide any comfort, because if the only comfort that you derive from any problem you might be facing in your life is, well, someday there's a magic solution where everything's going to be better. Couldn't tell you how it works because it's magic, but it's magic, so it's going to be great. That isn't very satisfying. That's not a real life. That is a very childlike hope for the future without ever considering whether or not any of it even makes sense. And knowing that that is not real, knowing that that fake little world isn't real, and that this life that I live now is very real, and it's spectacular and beautiful and hard and challenging, but there's so much that it can, and joy that it can bring you now. I think I will take the route of enjoying what I know to be real versus hoping for magic. So with all of that, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. Now go out there and have a good ass day.